course, home team, John Michaels, Brian Finner, and the Falcons legend. We just got some stuff we have to get off of our chest. A couple of stories, not going to keep you too long. First, we're going to get to some dummies. I don't like using this word a lot, but there's some dummies walking around the world of college football and the world of the NFL. First, I'm going to go back to a Saturday game with Grayson McCall, quarterback for North Carolina State. He is breaking contain, goes mobile, and as he gets ready to meet his fate with a defensive player for Wake Forest, his helmet starts to come off. You got dummies in college football where a college football quarterback, his equipment, which is there and designed to help protect and save his life, not only fails, but comes off of his head. How does this happen? Somebody needs to be blamed, and somebody needs to be in big trouble because this kid could have seriously been injured.
I've seen it too many times in both college football, high school at this point, and in the pros. The helmets have become so comfortable.
Right.
There's we used to have to take 4 or 5 days to get that Rydell pad off your freaking forehead. Be so red. You remember when Peyton Manning used to take his helmet off? It was all red.
It used to be sore. Your head would be a little bit sore.
That's right. And then you have to hit people, and then you'd be sore from the hits and everything else. They're so comfortable, they don't even want to buckle the chin strap tight anymore, and they can't even do it tight enough. So the fact that a runner, a quarterback in college football, all he did was put his head down slightly, and his helmet started slipping off of his head. And then he got bumped from the right side, so the helmet pops off totally, and then he gets hit in the head with no helmet on with the helmet. The whole thing blew my mind, and I'm sick and tired of seeing it.
He got hit in the jaw. We were lucky we didn't see brain juice come out of his ears because nobody made sure the kid or himself made sure he did not have his helmet strapped on appropriately.
Well, and it leads to something that happened in the NFL. You want to talk about brain juice. Josh Allen gets absolutely obliterated. He's out cold, and I saw the fakest damn thing the league has ever done, taking him into a tent for one play. Tua Tagovailoa is out for 5 weeks, and rightly so. He's had multiple concussions. Josh Allen was out damn cold.
Asleep, dead, knocked out.
And yet, one play later, he comes running back in. Oh, you know why? Because they want Buffalo to win. Because that garbage-ass franchise has never won anything. And let's prop them up and keep him in the game. He shouldn't be playing. Nope. He should be out for a couple.
How come we don't have a camera in that tent? Injuries happen on the field. We've seen a guy almost lose his life, and it was on national TV. You see broken bones and fingers sticking out. Why is there some code of secrecy that goes on in that blue tent? I think they're serving charcuterie or something in there because they clearly aren't getting the medical physicians and the right calls made when you have Josh Allen wounded and put out on a football field again.
Chris Nowinski does a great job on Twitter, and he was a former WWE
wrestler.
Yes. Got his PhD now. First reference for the day.
Thank God, he's a doctor now.
Off the air.
He got his doctorate from Harvard, if I'm not mistaken.
I asked him, what the hell is going on? We kind of follow each other because we have the same feelings on these concussion problems in the NFL. And I said, regarding Josh Allen, dude was asleep on the field. Unbelievable. How is it still going on? I don't understand. And he replied, they are either not reviewing the video quickly enough or the docs are scared to disappoint a superstar who doesn't realize he was out. When no one is punished, this is what we get. When I tell you somebody has to be punished, and they will not be. This has not been a story in the NFL. Nobody's talking about it at all. I mean, not for 1 second.
We moved on. It's like it happened and we moved on. You're right.
Punished. The person who's going to get punished is the independent doctor. They're going to tell him, guess what? You're no longer allowed to come back. He's the one that's out there probably making, $1,000 a game or whatever. He's not going to come back.
And that instance, that guy's there mainly for subtle blows that nobody really sees. Like I cut a couple guys on special teams on punt coverage where his defense stay, and I got to block Julius Peppers or Terrell Suggs. And I'm so outmatched, you just go cut their knees out. And when you do that, you risk the temple getting hit by a knee, which happened a couple of times to me. And boom, you're on the ground for a second, but then your instinct tells you to pop up. He didn't even pop up, okay? Mm-hmm. He was asleep on the field for 1/1000 of a second, 2/1000 of a second. Boom. That's obvious. That's blatant. That's arms limp, dead on the field. And for you to look at him for 1 minute inside, not even a minute inside that tent, first you went on the field and he sat up and he looked dizzy. Then you got him up, and then you walked him to the tent. Then they went to a timeout. Then he came back, and he's like, I got to get back on the field. I was like, okay, go for it.
Drake London missed more time in the Falcons game on Thursday night. They literally took his helmet, which is what you're supposed to do, evaluated him in the 10, and then they said, we need more evaluation. They took him back to the locker room before he was able to come back on the field. So he had to pass a battery of tests, and that's the protocol that's supposed to be there. But I think there's times, I don't want to say the NFL wants certain guys on the field, but I think there's times that things that happen on the sideline are very
And Drake London missed the game-winning play, the next play in overtime after he got hit upside the head. It was a game-winning play to Cardero Hodge. So you took a guy off in a game-winning moment, and the Falcons still won the game. So that's shame on everybody involved in the Josh Allen fiasco.
It's not good. It's horse shit, to be honest with you. And the NFL is going to have a real problem. And I'm going to be part of that problem if I can have anything to say or do about this, whether that's suing them or getting a part of somebody group that goes, what is happening? Because all we've heard the last decade and a half is how we're going to look at concussions, how we're going to treat players on the field, helmet safety, and all these different things. And the two stories we just talked about, that concussion for him, letting him back in the game, and then Grayson McCall's helmet just falling off his head willy-nilly, is insane and can never happen.
And then with the Tua situation, his brains have looked like ramen noodles a couple of times, and now you have a litmus test, and you still don't go through the proper protocols. Shame on them. Lastly, a word we're not allowed to use anymore. I'm going to use it, crazy. That's what Malachi Moore was for Alabama. He went crazy for just a few moments. Yeah, he was upset. Yeah, he's emotional. Yeah, he's a college football player, so you don't have to hammer a kid who had one bad moment when he's been a solid citizen as a member of the Crimson Tide. That being said, throwing your mouthpiece, not coming off the field when the coaches told you to, and kicking a football while the umpire is placing it at the end of the Vandy loss.
Trying to get the clock.
He went crazy, totally unacceptable. He's apologized and he can't do it again.
Here's one thing I will say. I don't mind emotional outbursts on a football field. You're talking about 60 minutes.
Oh, my God.
Hear me out. Hear me out before you, oh, my God, me. I don't mind an emotional outburst from time to time.
Describe an emotional outburst, because if it costs your team 15 yards, then it's not acceptable.
Screaming at your teammates, emotional outbursts. Maybe yelling back, not disrespectful, but arguing, going back and forth with a coach.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with that. What he did was above and beyond. And I know Kalen DeBoer he's got his own issue right now because you lost to Vanderbilt. How do you handle this can set a precedent for what your program is. They said they handled it internally. Malachi Moore put a long post on social media apologizing, saying this isn't who he is. I get all that. It's not who he is. He's been a captain on that team. Something more needed to be done to set a precedent. You just were part of a team that lost to Vanderbilt. I need to hold you accountable, not only for the stupidity on the field, for the fact that you gave up 40 points to a transfer from New Mexico.
About the game itself.
Oh, that's a part of it. Because you know what? When they lose to, if they would have lost to Georgia, he wouldn't have crashed out like that. It's a fact that they lost to Vanderbilt. How about practice harder this week? How about do something better on the field instead of being a crash out?
It's more about the look as you being a leader and a senior player, a veteran player on the team. You just can't do that.
He handled it. It was a full-on nutty, and I'd never seen anything like that, especially from an Alabama football player under Nick Saban. So maybe things are changing there. But I did appreciate what he said in his Instagram post. He's going to take the proper – it can never happen again, and whatever Alabama does or doesn't do – I don't really care. You just cannot see something like that happen
It's
again.
simple. You have gassers, and you don't have him running. You go sit on the sideline, and since you want to kick footballs and throw mouthpieces, you'll watch the rest of the team run gassers, and I bet you'll never have that problem again.
I want to bring up something from that game real quick that ties into a different conversation that we didn't really go over, but Diego Pavia at the end of the game curses on live TV a couple of times. Cam Ward, if you were up till 2:30 in the morning, dropped a couple of curse words and a couple of words that you're not allowed to say, and I saw former professional athletes react to this, saying these kids should not be on TV. And I'm thinking to myself, like,
are they more like don't put them in that situation so they don't make this mistake?
Like one of the guys that reacted, Orlando Franklin, who used to play for the Denver Broncos, said Cam Ward should never be in front of a camera again.
Well, that's a bit strong.
It's 2:45 Eastern time. He did drop the N-word talking to one of his teammates and dropped an S-bomb. Diego Pavia said Vanderbilt, what did he say? They were fucking turnt, is what they said.
That is a quote.
That is exactly what he said on live ESPN. And then he said something else as well. My point to this is, how about not grab emotional kids at the end of the game and throw a headset on them 7 seconds after a game?
There's a give and take. Look, we live in a world where we hear a lot of crazy. That being said, you are representing a brand. I think that's more on the SID. Just because you won or lost a football game doesn't mean you can say whatever you want to.
It's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world.
People are going to react on social media, but I appreciate the emotion and his just The fact that he thanked God and then went into the cursing tirade was interesting.
Well, I mean, the book of God and then cursing.
Yeah, the book of filth, flaw, and filth is what he was quoting. All right, that'll do it for the first episode of Locker Room After Hours. We'll know what we're talking about. I don't know. Next week when we know what we're talking about. Make sure you check out the Locker Room, 680 The Fan, 680thefan.com, and always online around the planet at the 680 The Fan app. Tap, tap, tap the app.